everything that is going on these days, how are you taking care of yourself? One of the things that I really work on this week is like, because we have a hacker on Instagram and then we had to change everything. There was just so much work around it. And we finally recover our Instagram account and we recover everything and everything's fine and safe and everything is well. But one of the things that I realize is that when I don't keep my routine, my meditation, my right food, my exercise, how we can get out of whack, out of tune so fast, and how did that affect us in such a deep level. So I'm grateful to have a wonderful routine that I follow through every day, and a way that I can always come back to my center, come back to love, and come back to control how I feel. Yeah, even if that is negative emotions, how do we digest it and continue going even when things are a little bit shaky, and come back to that harmony within and that connection with divine that realigns everything. So without further ado, I'm going to bring our guest tonight because he's really amazing. Ben is passionate about evolution of humanity, and he's going to talk about he himself overcome addiction and how you can overcome addiction. And he's also going to talk about very powerful principles of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. How can you change your life through that?
Trying to get to know who we are without releasing our limiting behaviors and habits, it's like fighting an uphill battle. You're like running uphill with I felt like a lot of the time 100 tons behind me, like 100 tons of weight holding me back. And so what it does though is, because there's no mistakes in life, I don't believe, nothing is lost, but nothing lasts, right? So I think that it creates strength. So yeah, I went through a really deep, I'll share a bit about my journey through addictions. You know, I think like the bigger and worse the addiction, the better, which is quite a controversial statement. But I think that, you know, with the bigger the challenge, the bigger the change. There cannot be change without massive challenge. So for anyone that's going through like a big change and a lot of challenge, then feel blessed, because like when you get through it, it's going to fill you. All of that space created by all that pain, it's going to flip completely the opposite, and you're going to radiate into life. Like you have no idea what's coming. And just like, I know it sounds crazy, you hate me for saying this, but it is good. You're going to be like so grateful that you've gone through this, like later on. It's crazy. I was always thinking, is this ever going to end? After I made my first breakthrough, I decided to get sober. I was like, is this ever going to end? I don't know if I'm going to make it through this, but I just had no way of going back. I knew that if I went back to that life, I would not exist. So I had to go forward. And by doing that, eventually I came through, right? But a lot of the time, I didn't know what was three feet in front of me, like dealing with all these emotions. I'll talk about that some more as well, and how I got through that, and the shifts in perception that were required to really make that step. Because I think for a lot of people, it's not just making the step, but holding the step. It's about, how do I hold myself there without the vice? Because we can't change habits until we clean up what's inside, right? Because it's a symptom. The addiction is a symptom. The way the people come to us in our trainings, and our graduates, they treat people with addictions. They get these clients with addictions, but we use the addiction as a gateway to deal with what's really causing the problem. But the addiction is what's painful, and people are so open, oh, I've got this addiction, but they're not open about the deeper things. Like I'm chronically afraid of rejection. I have no energy when I wake up because I'm always worried about things going wrong. I have a fear of failure, and I have a void inside that nothing can fill. That's a thing that is there for most addiction.
People that are not with an addiction, they feel that way sometimes, and their addiction is to feel that way. I never share it so much because it's so long ago. It feels like it's a lifetime ago. But I had an addiction when I was 16 years old. I was molested, and what I made by a family member, and what I made of that was a drug addiction. I was sniffing cocaine at 16 years old. And not until I almost died that I had a huge breakthrough, and I still have these scars, like how I cut myself, and I wanted to die at that time because I didn't know what else to do. I was in so much pain in my life. There was such a transition. I call it like a walk-in night, when I awoke up to so much pain that I was carrying, that I was like, a part of me had to die completely. And I literally almost died physically. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that happened, because a new me was born that night. And I get emotional because it's a very deep, I never shared this publicly. I'm sharing it tonight because it feels, I wasn't planning on it. But what happened is, like, I decided I will never do this again. And I started to study yoga and Osho at 16 years old. And I started to learn these higher meditations. And when I got into these meditations, what I learned is that the meditations really got me into such a higher space that no drug would ever have taken me. And that was way better than any drug I ever experienced. And I did a lot of drugs at that time, but nothing was compared to the feelings I got when I learned to meditate. And that was my breakthrough to addiction. How do we break through when the addiction, like how do we identify addiction when it's like light, right? Because that is like me almost dying. That was horrible. Like I drugged myself to the point that I had a near-death experience in the hospital at 16 years old. Thank God I almost died. Because what if that didn't happen and I just kept partying and kept going? What I would be now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But for the people that don't have that severe, what do you recommend to them? What do you tell them to do?
Yeah. And it's it's interesting because these minor, as you're saying that, I'm remembering some of the minor addictions I had to break after the major ones were gotten rid of. And they're so small that they're such small spikes that in the grand scheme of your life, when you look over your life, it looks like a flat line, right? But in the end, what it does is by not letting go of these lighter addictions, you are flatlining. Like you're dead. Like you're not exploring your full potential. Like you're not exploring who you really are. You don't get to, in 7 years since I've been sober, I dropped it all when I was 21. And all my friends were getting drugged. I had to leave them all, right? I'll go into that in a little bit. But what happened, like after that, you flatline, and afterwards you just get taken into this place. Like once you get rid of those heavier addictions, you start to be hell-bent on carving out all of the smaller ones. But without that sharp breakage, you never get to explore your gifts. Like in 7 years of being sober, I've cultivated some amazing talents and skills. And I know that now that I'm here, it just builds more and more momentum. So the harder you push at giving up addictions, everyone that's watching this, push hard at your addictions. Push so hard as if your life depends on it, because it does. Because at the end of the day, when you're lying there on that bed, at the end of your life, how do you want to look back? And I'm just saying this to stack some pain on the problem, but when you look back on your life, what do you want to look at? How do you want to have represented? Because it's okay to let ourselves down in the moment, but really we're letting everyone down. And that might elicit some guilt. Good. Let it take you right down to the depths and through, because going to the depths of that emotion you don't want to feel and you numb out with the addiction, I speak from experience. Going there at the depth, you pop out the other side into this place of power, of light. And lots of the time we try and just travel out through the top, escape, but you got to go the other way. It's pulling you there. It's pulling you. It wants to be seen. It wants to be felt. It wants to be heard and integrated, because it's a part of you. You cannot get rid of it. You can't hate it. It's usually something that's denied as a child. An aspect of you, some way that you are is denied as a child, and that part of you never grows older than the age of 6 or whatever the age was, and you just go through life and you miss out. Everyone misses out on that part of you. Stop holding that part back. Give it to everyone. You deserve it. They deserve it. You only want to be around people that love you. Like if I see any part of a vulnerable person, I love the shit out of that part. Like I love that part. It makes me want to cry because I just see the beautiful process, and I just see strength. Like I just see strength when I see people be able to open up into what they really want. Who are you really? And just, why not? We never get out of this life alive. We never get out of this alive. May as well risk it all and just be ourselves. Like that's what I mean.
Wow, so many jewels, and it's like you're talking for a few minutes. It's like I'm crying here. I'm getting healing from this. Like there is so many ways that we are addicted now to our phones. The phones are becoming like an extra organ, right? Like it studies that when children lose their phone, we lose our phones, and it's like the world ends, and it's like this. We are addicted to food, to the computer, to the phone, to people to so many things. And what I notice is people keep themselves occupied to not feel what is inside. And I live in the Silicon Valley, so I see a lot of people that are programming all the time, people that are like doing so much, right? So they have a hard time just relaxing. Like a lot of the clients that I work to, I notice they have a hard time just like knowing how to actually, you know, sometimes I go to my backyard and I just sit for 20 minutes and I just watch the birds. I really want to do absolutely nothing and just be present and smile in my heart for 20 minutes. Then I come back refreshed, but I notice a lot of people are not able to do that. And that presence, because that is feelings that haven't been felt, like you said, because that is stuff to work. And when they can't work, they can't look at people's eyes, they can't engage into a relationship, they can open their heart because there is so much fear to feel and to be vulnerable and even receive love.